Hello! Welcome to another episode of Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we are talking about One Piece, chapter 1064, officially titled Egghead Labo Phase. Labo Phase. I'm not sure. But I am Jason Hahn, writer for ScreenRant.com. I write a lot of video game related stuff for the site, but I'm a huge manga fan, so I started Manga Mondays to talk about the new series we love. And one of those happens to be One Piece, and every chapter of One Piece just gives us so much to talk about. I could rant and rave like a crazed fan myself for a while, but that's not nearly as fun to listen to, so I got my buddy Ben here with me today to talk about the newest chapter of One Piece. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm Ben. I also write for Screen Rant for the comics and anime and manga section. And One Piece is my favorite manga of all time. So I'm really excited to talk about the latest chapter, as I always am.
That's definitely saying something from Ben, because the dude reads so many different mangas. He's a pretty usual guest on a Manga Mondays podcast. But if you're curious, we do other episodes where we talk about other series too, like Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia. We even talk Boruto from time to time, and Chainsaw Man. So definitely go check those out. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about One Piece. And oh boy, man. This chapter kind of jumped around quite a bit, and as a lot of us expected from the last chapter, we were expecting them, or Oda, to possibly off-screen the Blackbeard law fight, and I'm glad that that's where we picked up immediately. Just because last chapter ended with Blackbeard and his crew assaulting Law, and a lot of us didn't expect Law's crew to be a lot of help, but oh boy, they proved us wrong in this chapter. I don't think it was enough to win this fight yet, of course, but they definitely just instantly destroyed Blackbeard's plans. Rest in peace, magical horse. And if it was any other series, we get a big old sword right through Blackbeard. But that Law's got a weird magical sword that doesn't kill people when that happens. It just hurts them a lot. But it was really, really cool getting to see more powers in action. Especially Law's crew. Just them like bringing up, saying like, we're actually really good at fighting in the water. Just like, oh man, we've had a whole series of pirates fighting, and we've never seen like somebody effectively fighting in the water. So it was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it goes back to what Law says this chapter, where like, oh, all your crew members have devil fruit powers. Cool, they're all weak to the sea then. So it's the trade-off that, most devil fruit battles happen away from the sea because both users are like, well, if we're in the sea, then we lose our powers and stuff and just can sink to the bottom. So we're fighting on land. But Law knows that he can just use his crew members who don't have devil fruit powers to, take advantage of the sea when fighting people with devil fruits like that, Blackbeard's crew. And he has room that can, teleport them over the sea if he needs them to be. So it's an interesting application of his powers that we hadn't quite thought about. At least I hadn't.
Yeah, and getting to see him like, I had just said previously that he has a sword that doesn't seem to hurt things, but in the official translation here, we see Strong getting cut in half, and then Doc Q just straight up saying, "Oh no, are you dead? Oh man, well you were a good horse." And I'm like, wow, all right, well that seems pretty definitive. So I guess Law just killed the horse. And then
I don't know. I'm not sure.
yeah.
We know Doc Q is kind of like fatalistic, so
Hmm.
I don't know if we can trust his word on whether Stronger is dead or not, or if Stronger has like a regeneration power or something.
Yeah.
Because the Pegasus fruit is a legendary, like a mythical zone fruit, so there might be more to it than just flying horse.
Kind of
There
like
might
the
also not be.
yeah.
He could just be dead.
It could just be dead, and we never see them again. Which, which sucks. I think Stronger might have been a favorite Blackbeard pirate for many. So we'll see if he comes back stronger. Maybe it'll be like a Hydra sort of thing, and he'll grow an extra head, and that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it could also be like, people can get their bodies split apart under room and still be alive,
Yeah, like
like
Kinemon.
Kinemon and Punk, yeah, and Punk Hazard. So could be that sort of situation as well.
I would love the idea if they just have to use like a half stronger now, or it's just like a couple. Oh, I have to go back to the panel and see the anatomy here, but he still has all of his legs, and yeah, I think he's got both of his wings still, so it would just be a smaller, stronger, which is just like a
A
miniature
headless
horse.
horse.
Oh man, that'd be great. Well, yeah. So Law pretty much takes out their mobility immediately. Very smart tactical decision. And then it looks like the Blackbeard's teleporter, Augur, I think is how you say his name.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he seemed to just teleport Blackbeard, so Doc Q might still be falling to his death, which would be pretty wild. I mean, he's got a very interesting power that we're all excited to see how Chopper is going to be able to fight against that. That just seems like a
Yeah,
given.
he could probably give himself like the anti-gravity sickness, like
Yeah,
that just makes him float or something.
yeah, which is
Like
interesting.
his power seems super versatile.
Yeah, he's almost like a real Usopp, where Usopp like says like, "Oh no, I have the can't go onto the island disease" or something like that, and Daku is actually able to create that sort of thing, or at least from our understanding of his powers so far. Might need more clarification on that. So, yeah, his powers just seems way too interesting for him to die right here. It's kind of a thing with introducing all these really cool devil fruits is just like if the Blackbeard pirates lose here, then remember all those cool powers? Yeah, those were neat. I wish we could have seen more of those. uh, I really don't think Oda's going to be doing that, but it was really cool getting to see more of that in action. At this point, though, I'm not sure if the fight will if we'll be able to. This seems like a good opportunity for them to sort of end this fight. I again was previously wrong in thinking that they were going to off screen the whole thing, but we got to see more of it in this chapter. Do you think that Oda will keep on showing this fight, or do you think we've seen everything that Oda's going to show us?
I think he's gonna off-screen the rest because
Yeah.
at the end we see Akainu, and Akainu's like, "Damn, I gotta wait for the outcome of this fight to know what to do."
Hmm.
And so I think the next time we hear about it, it's just gonna be the outcome of the fight. Um, so, and I think Oda gave us enough of the fight to be satisfying. Um, but it would have been nice to see who wins because I know that everyone's like on the edge of their seats about it. Even though it'll be likely that Blackbeard wins because Blackbeard's a big bad. But I don't know. I think it'll be a fun fight, and I guess we won't get to see. Well, at least I don't think we'll get to see the end of it.
Hmm.
But it'll be curious to see if he can beat Law's overpowered fruit and how he would do it. I could maybe see him like threatening Law's crew. Uh, like if he's fighting Law and then his crew mates just like, you know, checkmate Law's crew and are like, we're gonna kill them all if you don't surrender. Law's like, damn, I can't let you do that to my crew. I'll surrender.
Yeah,
Um,
because we had kind of a similar situation in Wano. I believe Law's crew got captured in Wano, and he was put into a similar situation. And I think he essentially gave up to the bad guys to be captured, but then he was able to obviously get out of it. I wonder if a similar
yeah, so I
situation will
could see it.
happen. Yeah. Well, just the last bit we see with Blackbeard is him saying Black Vortex, which coincidentally I think is also how they ended the Ace fight between Blackbeard and Ace way back forever ago.
That's going to be Blackbeard's true power, the cutaway. He's going to be fighting Luffy and he's going to do Black Vortex, and then we'll cut away, and then Luffy will be defeated.
Yeah, yeah, and then Blackbeard's King of the Pirates, and the series ends.
Yeah.
What is this, Game of Thrones?
It could be, we don't know. Maybe Oda's been building to a subversion the entire time.
Yeah. Oh boy, I don't even want to think about that reality. But Black Vortex, at least in the anime, they definitely built it to be like a power struggle. Ace pretty much conjuring his own son versus this black hole vortex sort of thing. But we never really got to see how that resulted. Because, we got that infamous cutaway, and then about 100 chapters later, oh, by the way, the Navy has captured Ace because of Blackbeard. And you're like, what? So I'm kind of curious, like, what Black Vortex is actually capable of doing. Because that whole page setup of Law being like, what the deuce? And then Black Vortex happening. And then we cut to Akainu, and Akainu being frustrated that he has to wait for another fight, which to me, Akainu has been stuck watching all these, or waiting for the outcome of like Dressrosa and then Wano and all of these things. I think this might be the final straw for Akainu, where he's going to be like, all right, fine, I'm leaving here. I'm going to go join the fight, which is what we kind of need.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Akainu is going to come out way later, but I don't think he's going to come now because, Akainu can be frustrated, but like ultimately Akainu is like duty overall, right? So I don't think that he'd just like
duty.
Be like, screw it. Duty. I could see him being very constipated, given his general expression. But jokes aside, like, I don't know. I don't see him leaving his post anytime soon, or like getting out in the field. But I think he will eventually, for sure, because we've got to get revenge for what he did to Ace. But I think that it will be in a much later arc.
Yeah, I don't know.
But speaking of admirals, though, I think we glossed over the appearance of an admiral I think is a bit more interesting. Not to cut you off on anything about Akainu, but I just wanted to make sure we covered this before we move on to a different topic.
Yes, covered.
Exactly, covered. But Aokiji is with the Blackbeard Pirates now, confirmed.
Yeah, which was really crazy because this is also like the first time that like a cover story has like intersected with that chapter's main story too.
Yeah,
which is it felt kind of like Twilight Zone-y. Just felt really awkward.
Well, it made seeing Pudding definitely way more of a surprise. Because it was like, oh, damn, I didn't think they'd show her with the cover story being what it was. But I like that Oda's still mixing up the formula this far into this story, right? Like, you never know what to expect.
Yeah, especially with Akaiji. Like, I know that that's been a theory going around for a while, and even the last podcast, I was saying like, I have no doubt that was Aokiji icing over Whole Cake Island and stuff, but I didn't expect him to necessarily be forming an alliance with the Blackbeard Pirates, because I just don't see. Anytime that we've like met Aokiji, he's been like on the bad guy's side, but he's been kind of the chaotic good character. Like he's consistently like kind of helped the Straw Hats one way or another, sort of in the background. So I'm almost wondering if he's maybe being like a double agent. Maybe he is going to betray the Blackbeard pirates eventually. Because, I mean, he's a really smart dude, and I mean, he was next in line to become the fleet admiral until Akainu was a jerk. So I almost wonder if, like, Akiji is playing the long game here, and he's just like, I'm going to pretend to be with the Blackbeard pirates to kind of keep them in check. And I'm wondering if, when the time comes near the end, he might, pull a reversal and try to help save the day or something.
Yeah, that's a popular theory that I've seen, and I agree with it too. I think that makes sense for Aokiji. But ultimately, we don't know too much about his motivations, right? I think a lot of the admirals is kind of like, we know about them because we've seen them in action and stuff, but we don't really know the most about their motivations. Just sort of like their relationship to the job, kind of. And Aokiji is the one that we know the least about, I'd say, in that respect, because we've seen him help out Robin, we've seen him do this and that, but like, what does he really feel about the world government, right? Maybe he actually just did have a hard split with the world government over everything that happened, and maybe he, agrees with Blackbeard's mission to like overthrow it. Who knows? It's very interesting to think about like what the motivation of an admiral would be without the duty they have to the government.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe I mean, we're assuming that he knows about Pudding's abilities. I mean, I would be kind of surprised if Blackbeard pirates were just like, "Hey, go capture this girl," and he's like, "Okay." And instead of them being like, "Hey, we need you to go capture this girl because she can read poneglyphs eventually," and he's just like, "Oh, okay. Well, I definitely don't want Big Bomb pirates being able to have that, so we'll go ahead and kidnap her here." But that also brings up the question of that this seems like it could be the last volume of Germa's 66 Emotionless Excursion. Because I mean, they're not even part of this. The last couple pages, honestly, or the last couple covers haven't really dealt anything with Germa 66. More of just the aftermath of Whole Cake. And this kind of seems like a good stopping point for it, I think, especially with us intersecting with the main storyline now. But also, like, Augur being able to teleport them, we're not quite sure the limitations of that ability yet, but it can also explain how the Blackbeard pirates are getting around so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think Augur's abilities are super broken in
Yeah.
in the world of One Piece because, like, I mean, we don't really know the extent of them that much. I doubt they can travel. They probably can't travel further than he can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me, especially as like a sniper. Um, I doubt I doubt that he'd be able to like just picture a place in his mind and go there, because otherwise that would make like Laugh Tale kind of trivial. They find the road poneglyphs and he's just like, okay, teleport time, and they teleport there, which
Yeah.
would be kind of anticlimactic in my opinion.
I kind of love the idea of any time he's about to do it, he has to say, teleport time.
Oh yeah, it's teleport time.
It's teleport time. Oh, guys, I think he's about to teleport.
Yeah. Well, when he said that, that was the panel of all time for me.
Yeah, even better than oh, no, that's a different podcast, but our recent Jujutsu Kaisen podcast introduced one of your new favorite manga characters of all time.
Gary K. Johnson,
oh,
the most
good.
American man in the world.
The most American man of manga.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, we can't get characters like that in One Piece. There's no America Island.
Yet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we get political in the next arc of One Piece. He starts doing like characterizations of certain countries. But yeah, before we move on to another part of this chapter, another thing about Pudding I really wanted to bring up too is just I love like because of her character journey with Sanji. Essentially, she's like more confident and just I mean I've always thought she was a very well drawn character. I think she's beautiful. But like her more confidently expressing her eye and stuff is just like, oh man, we just that's that little bit of character development that you just love to see in One Piece. Like,
Yeah.
it just things aren't this. She's not the same character that we met at the very beginning of Whole Cake.
Yeah, and that's the thing about One Piece character development is that it won't just come out and tell you like, "Look at me, I've grown." There's a lot of characters growing all at the same time,
Hmm.
and you just got to pick up on the cues and be like invested enough to be like, "Oh, that's great." They did this. Uh, so, I mean, I think that's why a lot of people complain about the series because they're like you know, Oda's not coming out and saying these characters grew. They're not growing. But I think that, this is a perfect example of how they are.
Yeah, I agree. And there's definitely a lot more to cover in this chapter. I'm just kind of obsessing over the Blackbeard pirate fight here because there's just so many
Yeah.
like little details. But
I'll say one element I loved of it is that I love seeing fights where Blackbeard just gets like taken off guard and is surprised by how powerful his enemy is.
which honestly
Uh,
is almost every fight Blackbeard is in. He kind
yes,
of
and I love it.
yeah, he kind of has like that Luffy characteristic where. And even Augur says like, well, that's what you get for just charging in, like uh, charging
Yeah,
without
there's
a plan.
so many parallels. And it's just like it makes him such a unique big bag, right? Because, and occasionally you'll see villains who share some characteristics with the main character or things like that. But like you never see the major antagonists of the series, like the one that everything's building up to, just like mess up all the time. Like, and you think that would make him, a lot less threatening, but like he always manages to bounce back, often through just like the most underhanded tactics that you've ever seen. And I don't know, that just to me makes him even more compelling
Hmm.
because you're like, how's he going to get out of this one? Uh,
Well, and it
and
seems
also
to
more hateable.
yeah, more hateable. Well, it's kind of like I think most of the time he seems to fight, and then anytime he's like about to lose, he pulls out Black Vortex, and that just seems to be the ability that
Well,
nobody can counter.
Well, not necessarily. Like I'm thinking of like the Whitebeard fight, right, where he shows up and he's like, "Oh, Whitebeard, you're on your deathbed. This will be easy." And then Whitebeard fights back, so he has like all of his crew people just like shoot him and stuff
Yeah.
and gang up on him. Uh,
Well, and
so like he,
Blackbeard's little fight with Luffy on Impel Down too. He's just like, "Oh man, you hit harder than I thought you would." Like, he's just
yeah,
consistently being caught off guard.
yeah, and then just using every tool at his disposal, whether that be a devil fruit or just his crew.
Yeah, and I think that this chapter is kind of also it's just small hints of it, but I think that the ultimate demise of the Blackbeard pirates, especially if they get all the way to eventually fighting the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats, part of the crew, of course, has devil fruits that they've sort of mastered. Other parts of the crew are just very, very skilled in their designated set. And the thing with the Blackbeard pirates, it seems like they're just like, oh, this is the most powerful devil fruit. I'm going to go ahead and eat it and just have this ridiculous ability. Um, I'm almost wondering, and especially with like Blackbeard being like, oh, did he awaken? Is he using an awakened ability? Um, there's the whole debate if Blackbeard is able to use like Conqueror's hockey at all, but it just seems like Blackbeard's crew and Blackbeard himself uh, just rely so much on their devil fruit abilities that I think that might be their downfall. I think
Yeah.
especially in this chapter when he's saying like, "Oh no, I didn't know Law had an extra ability with his awakening thing." I'm almost wondering if their overconfidence in their devil fruit abilities, broken as they may be their downfall.
Yeah,
Especially,
that's like what Law said, right? With the, oh, you guys all have the weakness of the sea, then that's perfect.
Yeah.
Um, it's not all. It's not always good to have a devil fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that once, they're put up against somebody who, or at least a whole crew of people who are confident in their abilities and, very experienced using their abilities, say Luffy versus Blackbeard, if we get that, which it would be a real shame if we didn't get that eventually.
Mm.
Just Luffy kind of, going all out, especially with Conqueror's Hockey and fourth gear or fifth gear. I can't imagine how Blackbeard would be able to hold his own against the Conqueror's Hockey feats, especially that we just saw against Kaido, let alone fourth gear. Or I don't know why I keep saying fourth gear. I can't really imagine anybody being able to contend with fifth gear, just because at this point of the series, it just seems so broken. We haven't really
Well, I mean,
spent enough time with
that.
it.
Yeah, that's the good thing about the villains that we have left in the series to take down, and that's why I'm so happy that Kaido was the strongest in the world, right? Because having the strongest in the world to fight let Oda show off like the full power of Gear Fifth. Um, but Blackbeard is the most cunning character in One Piece. I think we can comfortably say. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because while he clearly doesn't have a plan here against Law, like he can really think on his feet and improvise. And I think against Gear Fifth, that's going to be a very useful ability.
Yeah, I agree. And I almost think like Blackbeard would need the abilities of his crew also to be able to stand a chance, but against Luffy by himself, just with everything that we've seen with fifth gear and stuff. Because yeah, as you said, being put up against Kaido just fully demonstrated like the capabilities of that. Like Luffy can absolutely increase his fist to the size of a mountain, and not a lot of characters could take a punch like that. So, very curious and excited to see. Really, I mean, obviously, just more Luffy fighting with fifth gear, but just how Blackbeard is going to be using his abilities for such a situation. Very exciting stuff. But yeah, now seems like a good time to jump away from that fight. I yeah, I wonder how we'll find out the result of it, because I like you think that we're going to. I think that might be the last of that fight we see. But then we jump over
Yeah,
to. Oh, go ahead.
it could just be announced in the newspapers, like a lot of different world events are. Yeah, no, I think we should discuss the other part of the chapter as well, because the other part of the chapter was also very interesting. Some big developments there.
Oh well, yeah. Last we left with Luffy, Bonnie, Jinbei, and Chopper. We were getting blasted. They were getting blasted away by a cop pacifista, a Kuma cop, or a. I don't know. I came up with all kinds of fun terms last podcast. They're not all coming to me, but yeah, they escaped that situation by Bonnie adjusting all of their ages. So then the Kuma cop didn't recognize them, and we get to see a 70-year-old different future Luffy, which was a lot of fun because that's something Oda has like drawn in kind of the extra content in the volumes. As somebody asked him to draw like what all the old versions of the Straw Hats would be if they didn't follow their dreams. And we got kind of another glance at the Luffy version of that, who's just kind of a saggy old man.
Mm.
Um,
And the Chopper version too. Don't forget.
of course, the Chopper version, and I love that he is just like he's an old reindeer, and he's got
Mm.
his little boots on his back legs only, which I thought was adorable. Um, but then, yeah, Bonnie seems to be a little girl body or an older version of
Yeah, I think
that.
little girl Bonnie, little boy Jinbei,
Hmm.
and then old man Luffy and old reindeer Chopper. So it's like two and two.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun getting to see those, and especially Chopper just like, please change me back.
Yeah.
Being an old animal is very different than being an old person. Um,
Yeah.
but we got a little bit
And
more insight.
it's funny. Well, it's funny too because I feel like Chopper could have just changed into a different form on Zone
Hmm.
and then avoided Kuma's gaze potentially because Chopper can change into a reindeer, a more typical reindeer. Like he doesn't need to be an old reindeer.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Well, and I'm glad that his costume automatically adjusts to him as well. That's
mm.
kind of a little thing there, but yeah, Chopper. I would love to see like old kung fu version Chopper, or just any of his other forms. But they quickly get reverted back to their prime or their current, ages essentially. But not before we get a little bit more insight into Kuma. Getting to hear Jinbei's impersonation of what he's heard about the original King Kuma, and oh boy, I almost said King Koopa. That's close.
Mario Trilogy did come out at some point. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I've seen pictures of Oda's office, and he is indeed a Nintendo fan. So, um, but yeah, like hearing that Kuma was a tyrannical, evil leader. At least that's what Jinbei had heard, and then Bonnie calmly picking up a gigantic lightsaber and then almost killing everybody. At least she swung this giant lightsaber ability or attack that they just found laying on the ground, and they dodged out of the way. But for the sake of comedy, we're still going to be following her around, even though she technically just tried to kill them all. Uh, but yeah, she then changed them all back. We get another glorious shot of Bonnie looking great, and she's keeping that lightsaber, so I'm sure that that's going to come into play later. But coming from Bonnie, she's saying no, that's not who Kuma was. He's I and it's revealed that Kuma said that they are a special people. The first thought immediately comes is Lunarians, because they're kind of the new secret race that we've recently learned about and have talked about a couple times. But I've seen people online talking about Big Mom had brought up when she saw King. She's just like, oh yeah, you're one of those races that I haven't been able to fit into my family yet. You're one of the three secret species that I haven't been able to work into my family yet. So I'm wondering if it's a new thing we haven't heard about, or do you think it might be Lunarians making Bonnie
no,
part
I think it's
Lunarian?
a new thing. Because they don't look like Lunarians, right?
Right.
Neither Kuma nor Bonnie looks like a Lunarian, and Bonnie is Kuma's kid, so
Hmm.
I don't think that quite tracks. But I think they could definitely be a new species that we haven't seen yet. And I'm excited to find out more about that because I think Oda was very intentional in setting up that little tidbit there.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I just don't know what sort of mysteries that could unlock there. But yeah, I don't know. Kuma just being very tough and all those things that primed him to be interest Vegapunk essentially.
Mm.
Which, not to jump ahead here, but the chapter kind of ends with Vegapunk laminating over, a genius can usually tell their own future, and I think my death is coming. So hear me out, Dragon, possibly Luffy's dad, which has
Mm.
like huge implications. Like if Vegapunk and
Yeah.
Dragon have a relationship, then Dragon may have been complicit in Kuma's experimentation and
Well,
just
it could be also Vegapunk was a double agent in a way, where he was
yes.
working with the world, or not with the world government, with the revolutionaries on Kuma, um, to some unknown end. Uh, or there's just so much we don't know about that relationship.
Hmm.
And also, we know so little about Dragon too, that we don't know what Dragon will be willing to let his army members go through, right? Would he be willing to let Kuma undergo this sort of trial uh, to get some benefit potentially? Who knows? Um, it just we're this arc is going down as one of my most recent favorites, just because like so much lore is getting explained
Oh
and
yeah.
dived into, and it's just like, oh, this is what I've always wanted. Uh, give me more.
Yeah, give me
Um,
more. And it's wild just on how smoothly he is telling all this too. Like, and we're even
oh
like
yeah,
jumping all over the place too. Like, it doesn't feel like, info dumps or just exposition being thrown at us. Like, it's all flowing in chapters that feel like two or three chapters packed into one, because we just have so much going on.
yeah, and I feel like that's one of One Piece's great strengths, where it does just interweave these like details that people have been waiting to hear about forever, because just like it's just natural extensions of what the characters would do and say. I feel like
Mhm.
you know like Luffy would naturally he doesn't really care about certain big like plot details as much as the fans do. So like, he'll hide pieces of information not even intentionally, but just because he had no reason to say it. And and it's like things like that where it ties sort of lore reveals to character, actions that I think makes these reveals so great.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that next chapter we're going to be getting hopefully more, because just dropping Dragon's name, one of the most mysterious characters in the entire series. Well, of course, I mean, we're having two of the most mysterious characters possibly having a conversation, so that is just bound to reveal all kinds of really interesting stuff. But also, us spending a little bit more time with this Punk number one, the Saga,
Shaka.
Shaka, thank you. Um, it seems to put more ammo into the theory that this might be the original Vegapunk. Uh,
Or at
or
least, one of the main carrier of the personality or something.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still expecting like they get to the main central hub of Egghead and he's like maybe just a floating brain, or the
Mm.
original one is still like barely alive, or just the central brain might still be controlling all of the punks. Just maybe he was such a big personality that he was able to create nine versions of himself. That's still kind of up in the air, but I'd be surprised if we jump right into the Vegapunk and Dragon conversation here, as
Mm.
soon as we pick up next time. And I hope I'm
See, I
wrong.
actually wouldn't be.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong.
I Yeah.
But speaking of wrong, somebody in this chapter made a huge mistake. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that they've made in the entire series. And it's not somebody who usually makes mistakes. It's one of the most reliable Straw Hats. Brooke made the decision to stay on the ship. And then his lifelong, well, not
Yeah.
lifelong, at least the last few years, he's dreamed of seeing panties. And, well, we got new outfits, and he would have seen panties. Because Vegapunk does not believe in pants for women, apparently.
Yeah,
Uh,
years and years of character motivation down the drain.
yep.
I really hope someone got fired for that blunder. Um,
Yeah, or they're still working on it. They just don't have enough workers to mass produce pants for women.
yeah. Well, it's unclear whether the bottoms are like panties or if they're, I don't know, like it's like a onesie sort of scenario. Um, where there isn't much in that area, but it's not like it's part of the top outfit. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad because it's enough to have Sanji there perving out. We don't need Brooke as well,
Yeah.
reacting in that way.
Yeah, and I do love the idea. Like, I mean, Zoro is just always making like the best logical decision. So Zoro and Brooke decided to both stay with the ship, which is a little. The one I would love to see what Zoro's new outfit could be, would look like, just because I love Zoro so much. But I really enjoyed all the new outfits. I think Usopp's looks awesome. I think Usopp's costumes are usually a highlight. Frankie's Frankie has pants, which is really strange. And
Yeah.
uh,
Well, you go ahead.
I was just gonna go, and Sanji's Hawaiian shirt. We seem to have a Hawaiian theme on this island. But excuse me.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of like Dressrosa, um, with with Luffy's sort of Lucy disguise, uh, this sort of tropical shirt.
Yeah, and I'm almost wondering what happens to Frankie if we turn that. I don't know what the word would be called, but he has a sort of a turning mechanism, as if you're like getting a sound box like primed up or something. Not a lever. I'm sure there's a word for it. It's just escaping me. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of weird that we're like not going to be seeing Frankie's eyes. Also, like he has this sort of space age visor, sort of a Geordie LaForge style. And I feel like that's going to kind of take away some of his like reaction abilities, because this whole arc, like I'm just really excited to see Frankie and Vegapunk like have some conversations, and just this feels primed for a very Frankie focused arc. And I'm hoping that doesn't take away from it.
I never doubt Oda's ability to make his characters express emotion, no matter what they look like. I mean, look at Brooke, right? Brooke doesn't even have eyes, and yet
that's true. Ho 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 ho.
Oda makes do. So, I mean, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I love Sanji's comments about Frankie, where he's like, "Oh, you know, somehow you still manage to look like a perv," and Frankie's like, "Thank you."
Well, yeah, he kind of is. Not necessarily as much as Brooke, I'd say, but yeah. Well, to kind of jump back, I was just so anxious to talk about the Vegapunk dragon thing that, yeah, we get Lilith transporting the Straw Hats up to potentially the central hub of Egghead Island. And I love that Oda kind of drew it to almost be like a Capitol Records sort of vibe. I spent a little time living in Los Angeles myself, and the Capitol Records has a giant, very unique looking building, kind of not necessarily in the middle of LA, but it's a pretty hard to miss sort of thing, and it kind of gave me that vibe here. But just incredibly excited to see them, moving towards the center of the island already. We're moving around at a good pace, and Oda has definitely set up, some pretty big reveals to possibly happen in this next chapter. It's just so much lore being thrown at us. I love it, especially with the little detail of Frankie wasn't on Skypiea, because they met Frankie after Skypiea. So him experiencing like the clouds that you can step on and all that for the first time was a pretty fun little feature there. But yeah, I don't know, man. What do you think's going to happen next, or did you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I just want to second what you said about Frankie, because it's a bit of an attention to detail that I feel like, other manga might miss, that Oda never misses. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if we're going to immediately focus on the Shaka Dragon conversation, which I can definitely see happening. But we might jump to a different place first. It's tough to say what's coming next. I mean, this arc in particular has been really tough to predict, because Oda's just throwing so much at us. in this arc, and it's just like who knows what's gonna happen. So I'm just excited for the next chapter. I'm glad we didn't leave off on a super big cliffhanger. Like, of course it's a cliffhanger. Like, oh, there's dragon. What's gonna get said? But it's not like crazy. And it just gives us the next 2 weeks to just theorize and absorb the information that we got. So I'm just sure whatever the next chapter will be, it's gonna be another great one. So I'm excited to see it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely be talking about it on Mega Manga Mondays. We are unfortunately on break next week. Got to give Oda his time to relax and chill out. But I'm almost wondering if, with them going on break every 3 weeks, if that's going to adjust his whole, I want to be able to finish the series in 3 years idea.
Well, I mean, he's been doing this for like years at this point. So
yeah,
I think he's absorbed that into his calculations. But I mean, I think Oda just doesn't know when. Like, he's been saying the series is going to end like 3 years for 20 years.
right.
So I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, man. I guess the last thing I had to bring up about this chapter is I'm a sucker for Robin, and her new costume was just a little too much for me. I looked at it and I was just like, oh, you're killing me, Oda. Like that is just. I can't imagine how it'd be any better.
Yeah, I mean, I did like how Robin reacted to the compliment she got about it. She was like, "Thank you." It's just such Robin,
classic Robin.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, yeah. Any other things about One Piece chapter 1064? We are on break next week. However, very, very exciting news. I think next week we finally, us Americans, we have to wait quite a bit, actually. We have until next Friday. But the American release, finally, of One Piece Red. Very excited to see the movie. I've luckily avoided most spoilers. And we'll definitely be doing a podcast where we talk about the movie. I know one of our previous Mega Manga Monday guests who we are lucky to have every once in a while, Francesco, has seen it already. He somehow got to be the lucky guy at Screen Rant who got an early copy to review, and I pleaded and asked, but I wasn't able to get get the link myself. But incredibly excited to see that, and also very excited to talk about it. But we'll definitely be talking chapter 1065 when that comes out, as well as having a whole podcast probably for the movie as well. So look forward to those. But yeah, man, I think that'll about do it for everything I've got on the chapter. Anything else you wanted to say before we go into plugs and recommendations?
No, that's it for me.
Excellent. Well, this has been Mega Manga Mondays discussion on One Piece chapter 1064. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know in the comments, and you can follow us and comment and stuff on our we've got a YouTube channel where we post all the podcasts. We have a full website, megamangamondays.podbean.com, and I'm about to sneeze. But definitely check out megamangamondays.podbean.com. And we also have a Twitter account. You can follow us on there, and feel free to reach out to us on that as well. If there's any things about the podcast you think we missed, we would love to hear from you. Would also love to hear what you thought about the chapter. But you can follow us on Twitter at mmangamondays. And yeah, we also do other podcasts where we talk about series like My Hero Academia. Chainsaw Man is fantastic right now. Having a lot of fun talking about that. I think the new chapter actually just dropped. Could probably read that.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to read that after this.
Yeah, perfect.
But yeah, we talk about all kinds of series, a bunch of professional nerds. We're content creators, game developers, journalists, really just trying to be professional nerds here. And we love talking about manga, so definitely check out other episodes of Mega Manga Monday. I also have another YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. There I like to stream games on Wednesdays and Sundays and upload a comedic Let's Play video from time to time. Usually with me playing with some friends. Me and one of my best buddies got through Metal Gear Solid. We played through the whole first one. So if you haven't played that, or if that's a game that you are fond of, go back and check those out. But lately I've been streaming Overwatch 2 with friends, and would love to play with you. So subscribe and all that stuff to Honzy and Friends on YouTube as well. But Ben, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of recommendations, the second season trailer for Vinland Saga came out like yesterday. And so if you haven't seen Vinland Saga, now's a good time to jump in because it's a great series and looks like the second season is coming in January, which should be pretty exciting. I've heard a lot of great things from people who've read that manga. I haven't read it yet. I've just seen the first season of the anime. But looks like Mappa's going to bring their A game to that as well as all the
Oh,
other shows. They're bringing their A game too. So
Mappa's doing it?
yeah, because the first season was done by Wit, and then Wit was like, "We've got other things to do, but you can take over it." And so Mappa's taking it over, and
Wow.
I know people have complaints about how they took over Attack on Titan from Wit, but it looks like their complaints won't be founded in in Saga Season 2 because the trailer makes it look like, they're keeping the same sort of style and it's just going to be very good.
Cool.
Um,
I actually
so,
I've seen that name thrown around, a lot of people singing its praises, but what's that series about? What's your elevator pitch?
I mean, it's basically just Vikings. That's my elevator pitch. I'm not going to go too
The
into it
anime.
because, yeah, I don't want to spoil anyone.
Okay.
But it's Vikings, a very good story. Uh,
Awesome.
so I mean, yeah, and the first season's just called the prologue. If
Ah,
anyone's interested in stories like that, so but it's a great story on its own. First season could be like its own self-contained sort of thing if you
okay.
want to treat it that way. But
Awesome.
um, yeah, so it's very fun, very nice to see that we're getting more of that. And then in terms of plugs, I also have a YouTube channel of my own called YGO from Zero, where I go over historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to check it out.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to have these plugs and recommendations in the description. So if you're curious, go ahead and check those out in the description. And I might even have a link or two. But this has been a lot of fun. As I said, we have some very exciting One Piece ahead of us. And we'll definitely be talking about it. But thanks for your time. And I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, I look forward to the next one as well. See y'all next time.
Peace.